Hey everybody, it's me, Mary Z, back once again here with more stuff from VoiceHacks. I am super excited to bring you today's video. Shifting gears back to rock and metal, and we're going back to the European metal scene, and we're going to look at specifically a Dutch band from the Netherlands. This is a band called Epica. Their singer is Simone Simons, and that's who we're going to take a look at. In some languages like Dutch and German, when we have a name that ends with E, pronunciation is actually Simone or Diana or Sabina. Just forgive me, I'm going to be using the English pronunciation of her name. It's a little bit easier. Simone is a wonderful soprano vocalist, and she is what I call the master of mixing. She is really, really good at a certain technique using her mixed voice and dabbling in a bunch of different tone placements as well. I found a really good recording. It is from 2013, but the quality was really good. The vocal mix was excellent. It was super upfront, so you could actually hear what was going on really clearly. But let's check it out. Here we go. Let's stop there and let's talk a little bit about everything we have going on. Really, really cool band. One of the things that got me super sucked into heavy metal was discovering it and discovering a lot of these bands, mostly out of Europe, who incorporate classical singing, true classical singing. People like Tarja Turunen, for example, if you remember my Nightwish video. We have a little bit here with Simone in Epica. Let's talk about Simone in particular. Sometimes she belts, mostly in the very, very low notes, which we really don't hear many of in this particular clip. Primarily, her strongest points are using her mixed voice and her classical voice. This is a trained singer, once again, and this is not private knowledge that she's had training. I know that her vocal coach, one of her vocal coaches, was Amanda Somerville, who is also a well-known metal musician. She's actually from the States, but she's known in the European metal scene more. You might recognize Amanda Somerville from Avantasia or from Trillium, which is her own band. So I always like to point that out. And we're also watching the DVD of the 10th anniversary of the band here. So this is a person who's had a lot of practice and a lot of training and is in a very popular band that tours all the time. So I want you to realize that she's put the work in. I always say that she's put the time in. She had to put a lot of effort and practice in to getting that beautiful finesse to switch between the styles so easily. Every person's training and every person's learning is going to be different. So how she switches between these styles and how she thinks of it, I'm not exactly sure, but I'm going to explain how I would teach it to someone. When we first hear the track, we kind of start off in mixed voice. And I call Simone like the queen of mixing because she really focuses on where her voice is naturally comfortable. When I'm teaching folks to sing in their mixed voice, I usually ask them to imagine their sound floating right between here. Or like you have a laser cannon of sound that's sending your voice right here. It's not belting and it's not classical, but it's a very full tone. When we do that, we can get sort of a poppy fullness to it without the overbearing weightiness of full belt tone. We can also think of it like musicals or Disney. Look at this stuff, isn't it neat? Then if you'll notice at the other parts of the song, she primarily goes into vertical placement where the tone actually kind of widens a little bit. We send our sound through the roof and we're in our classical tone where there's a lot of vibrato. I want to go back and let's listen to the mix and let's listen to the vertical. Let's go back and I'll explain to where it changes. Right there we have mixed voice and straight tone. Will we be da 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 da. I'm not doing as good of a job as her. I'm sending the sound right here. She's very tastefully adding vibrato on the end of the note. In modern music, if we add too much vibrato, it is too classical sounding. I guess it's really a matter of your taste. There are some metal singers who do add a lot more classical vibrato on it, even when they belt. It depends on the person. To me, it seems more modern and a little more tasteful to kind of decide, pick and choose where you want to do the vibrato. And if we keep going, I'm going to fast forward a little bit, and then we'll see where it changes a little bit. So right there we have like that. This is a little high for me. You can tell it's getting to the top of my range. It's much more comfortable for someone whose voice is a soprano range. She's got mixing here and then vertical on that top melody note. The rest of it is mixing. That very top note that she has, that very top note of the phrase, the tone widens a little bit and she lets the vibrato come out. So this is insane mental control. Mixing, opera singing. Mixing, pop up for some classical. Pretty awesome technique and pretty something to really strive for. There is a point where she actually pushes her mixing a little further in the second chorus we watched, and she's almost belting. One of the biggest takeaways you can get from this video is to learn your different styles and to apply them in the part of your range where it's the easiest to do. If you really want to flip between styles like Epica, like Simone, like Dimash, we watched him, or Flora Jansen, then what you need to be able to do is belt properly in your lower notes, mix in your mid notes, and then classically sing or vertically place your very highest notes, especially things that are like flute notes, where you're going to go extremely high. Let's go and hear her push it almost to some belting. All right, so that was it right there. So right here, the first half of the chorus, she does her mixing to classical. But then the second half of the chorus, she pushes her mixing and she's almost belting. I would say maybe we could push it a little further to make it fully belting, but it goes beyond her mix on the second one. So let's just see how it goes. Compare the first half to the second half of the chorus. So we see on that second part, she really pushes it to where it's almost belting. She really got super good control. That is very tough to do, to kind of land in that spot to where your mix is a little bit bigger and you're not quite belting. The biggest takeaways from Simone that we can get are practice makes perfect, training, put the time in. This is not stuff that you could just do overnight with that kind of finesse. Once again, she wasn't afraid to invest in her education and train herself on how to do some of these things. I can't stress enough, if you really want to mix styles, the best place to start is applying the placement to the most obvious parts of the range. There's nothing wrong with mixing. I think one of the things that people shy away from is they'll say, well, I'm a soprano and maybe I can't belt that much right now, because you can learn. I've taught folks with high light voices to belt, but it's not the most natural thing, and it's not the most instinctive thing for most of these folks with this kind of voice. And what Simone did was she just went with it, right? And it's quite lovely, and it's quite big, and it's quite beautiful. She breaks all the stereotypes, all the things that my high-voiced students are afraid of, that it won't be big enough, that it won't be resonant, that it won't be powerful, that it sounds mousy. Simone has a high voice that we classify as light, and we don't hear any of those things. It's not mousy. It's not tiny. It's big. It's resonant. It's full. So ladies with high voices, don't be afraid. If you have a mixed voice and you can't belt all the way just yet, try just belting on your low notes, mixing in the middle, and classical on your high. If you want to try all the different placements. In modern music, there's no rules. We don't have to sing. If you're a classical singer, just remember you can mix too. You don't have to stay in just classical singing. This is modern singing, and so we can choose to mix and match any styles or placements we want. If you don't know what I mean by any of this, go to my playlists, watch my intro series. It'll show you what I'm talking about as far as placement and what I mean. Try it out, see if it works. If you're digging it, then I have a whole playlist on belting. I have a whole playlist on mixed voice. I have a whole playlist on classical singing. So you could practice each one of those styles individually if you want. Go check it out, take a look. And this has been my take on Simone Simons with Epica. Thanks, everybody, once again for checking out my VoiceHacks analysis of this awesome, awesome singer. You know where to find more stuff on the band if you're curious. Now, hopefully some of you, especially some of you from the States, hopefully I've introduced you to something new. And if you need lessons and you're not sure how to begin tackling these things, feel free to email me, voicehacks@gmail.com. Join our Facebook group. Link is in the description. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Links in the description. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week, and I'll see you soon.